Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Divine Awakening series. This is episode 19 now, and I'm just so grateful to have amazing experts in their field come on and share their wisdom and their Divine Awakenings journey and how they've really stepped into their purpose. And we've got a beautiful guest today who I have been connecting with recently, and I've seen her around in events, but she actually was hosting one of the events recently, last week actually, and I knew that she'll be a great addition to the podcast to really share her knowledge, her wisdom, and her story, because I find it so interesting to and I'm so curious to know, how did somebody get to where they are now, really stepping into their purpose. It's a journey. It doesn't just happen. There's things involved. Spirit lines things up, things align, and the kind of work for the guests that I have on my podcast, it's the road less traveled, shall we say. It's the esoteric, or it's energy work. And so Susie, thank you so much for saying yes to coming on my podcast. And I met you last week, where you've been in the field of Feng Shui and energy clearing in people's homes for like over 30 years now. And you specifically are an expert in harmonizing and balancing the home in business areas. You can work in person, but you do overseas as well. And something that you're very passionate about and trained in, Feng Shui and healing geopathic stress, which I found really fascinating when you shared about that, and really helping people feel at home in their own space. And you are specialists in aura healing, and we can talk about all of the other modalities that you work with. And I know recently you're being trained as a funeral celebrant. Is that right? You were talking about. And so all of these tools and trainings, it's like we're just adding to our spiritual CV, so we can give a broader and more diverse offerings to our clients and our customers, and just get another level and layer deeper. And so one of the things that really stood out for me when you did your talk last week was when you were saying about clearing the energies, and there are many ways in which you can do that, and we'll get into that. But a really simple way is bringing the light of source, bringing in the light of God, and that white light, and emanating that out. And so I really wanted to kind of open up this conversation with you is, what is your connection to that which we call source, the divine, God, creator, and how does it play out in your life?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for inviting me onto your podcast. Sounds like I do so many things, and that is probably true. So the divine. So for me, the divine source energy is in everything. So it's in the trees, the plants, the flowers, the earth, and of course within ourselves. So I think on that human journey, often we feel like we're outside of source, but actually I think, whether it's an age thing, but I think as time moves on, and we start to perhaps awaken to who we are and why we're here, that we can feel that connection, so that source runs, is deep within us. And I know it's not always easy, and times can be challenging. So sometimes we can sort of, fall out of that sort of, that kind of feeling that we're connected. But then as soon as we can just spend time with nature, or meditate, or just go within ourselves, we can reconnect.
Yeah, beautiful. And it's part of who we are, isn't it? It is that essence is that intelligence is weaved through everything, and life can pull us away from that as well. And so we miss the kind of miracles and the magic that can kind of unfold when we are present. And you were saying that nature is a simple way of just getting back into remembering that essence and seeing the beauty. And so how's that played out for you in just being in nature and reconnecting? Has that been something that is your go-to?
Definitely. So I moved to Saltdean, which is near Brighton, 7.5 years ago. I always had this yearning to be by the sea. I'm not actually a swimmer, but I just love the sea and, you know, feeling the wind. So I can really connect by the sea. So I think we all have perhaps different, you know, some people might prefer forests. And again, I love trees, but I think just that, for me, that connection is just looking at a sunset or a sunrise, because I think there's so much, isn't there, around, you know, chaotic world that we live in at the minute, but if we can just connect with something, you know, see the beauty, because it's there all the time, and connect with that. So for me, it would just be just feeling, you know, that feeling of seeing the wonder or the beauty. I know it sounds a bit cliched, but it just really helps to, just for that walk, or to feel the earth, or to even go in the garden and jump up and down. So yeah, that would be my way of connecting. And I guess it's whatever way, even if you don't have a garden, you know, even if we're connecting, sitting down in a meditation, or listening, or music. Music's another fantastic way of connecting with the beauty, our soul, and it's really grounding as well.
I think we can all appreciate a good sunset, can't we? You know, or just that takes your breath away and brings you back to that present moment. And so, obviously, you know, working in people's homes and clearing energy in the Feng Shui, and you know, I've heard that term Feng Shui. What does it actually mean?
So Feng Shui means wind and water, and it's, for me, I originally trained in Feng Shui for about 3.5 years. I'm going back quite a long time. Because I walked into this workshop meeting, and I was actually with my mum at the time. And you know, when you hear something, and I just thought, this is everything that I love, because I've always been interested in like houses and homes, always been fascinated since a little girl. And to go into a meeting and just it just so resonated with me, in terms of how it works. And a lot of us do Feng Shui intuitively, so it's actually all about the energy, the chi. So if you imagine a stream, you want it to meander through your front door, for example. Or if, you know, you want it to be, you don't want to, if you were to block your front door with a chair, the energy would get stuck. So as in Feng Shui, we're always looking at how everything flows. And I just fell in love with it. And then I moved on to other things from there. So originally that's how I started. I just felt this like huge thing inside, like, wow, this is what I've been looking for. I mean, I was working in insurance before that. Completely different, you know, completely different world. And I always felt there's that thing, you know, when you're working, something's missing.
Yeah.
So I just literally thought, wow, I've got to train in this. I've got to learn more about it.
And when did you, because there's many of us probably right now that are really feeling that, Paul, there's got to be more to life than this, and, you know, identifying with their job, and they just know there's something more, because I know I felt that as well. And so how did you fully like trust and take that leap of faith that this was meant for you, even because, you know, you identified with your old job and that life, and then moving into this kind of work, which is, you know, quite niche in a lot of ways. How did you really trust that it was the right path for you?
So my father passed away, and I was, oh gosh, roundabout, I think I was about 35. And I always think that's a bit of a crunch time, 35, 40. And I started to sort of ask questions. Again, I'd always been interested in mediumship, for example. Honestly, when I was 19, I was like, went to my first spiritualist church. I was kind of always, you know, even at the age of 11, I was doing cards and things. I was always really interested in anything esoteric. And then working in the city, it was fun. I loved it. It was fun. But then I had my first daughter. And I think getting home at sort of 8 p.m. in the evening, And I just suddenly started to see that I just wasn't getting to spend enough time with her. And that was part-time. I'd gone back part-time. So then I just thought, and I was married. So I was in a position where I guess I could start to do the training. So yeah, and then that was it really. I just decided this is what I want to do.
Yeah, and I think a lot of us are really wanting to have that freedom of time now. I mean, our soul wants to feel free, and freedom of time has really been coming up for me recently. And so, doing things that's going to really like allow that, yeah, and work more smarter in a way that's going to help us get that. And so, what was your kind of like childhood life? Was you always you kind of said you've all from 11 years old you were doing cards, you know? Do you have earlier memories of that, like, because obviously mediumship, was you connecting to the other side before that? What was that look like for you?
When I was about 5, I used to live in just a really normal, modern 2 up, 2 down house. It was nothing, it wasn't an old property, or there wasn't anything different about it. And I can always remember seeing these sort of like spirit bodies floating through, and they go out the window. And at that age, I was convinced one of them was Robin Hood, and I never told anyone about it. And I guess I just thought maybe that's what everybody sees. So I was always aware. That was one side. Another side, I just get terrible nightmares in that bedroom. Terrible nightmares about spiders and things. But those were my earliest memories. And my mum was a healer as well. And so my mum was quite open to things. So not that she was kind of, not that we talked a lot about it, but she was interested in, so they didn't tell me it was a load of rubbish or anything, or, so yeah. So I think it was just, it was just there really from an early age. I was just fascinated, and it's, I am probably, have more self-help books that I collected over the years than anyone I would know. And I've just always been interested, and that's often we look for the answers outside of us, but I was just interested in everything. So always sort of like wanting to learn more things about everything.
Yeah, great. And books I've definitely got a place, but they get to a point where it's like, okay, I need to go internal now, and get the answers from within for sure. And so what was the pivotal of your kind of awakening journey? What was the divine awakening, would you say? Not from the childhood of, having those experiences with the other side maybe, but was there anything specific that jumps out?
Quite a few things. I remember I was doing a space clearing training with Denise Lynn, who maybe a lot of people will have heard of her. She's amazing lady. And we were in Norway, and we were doing a meditation, and I kind of remember levitating out of my seat, and this energy coming down, and just, it was like fireworks. And it was something I'd never experienced. So that was one thing that happened. It took me a while to get back grounded, if you like. And then we moved to a house, which was quite a challenging house. We did a lot of building work. A lot of things went wrong in this house. But the one thing that did go very well for me was all my meditation and things like that. So I had a lot of experience of, all I can say, it's like divine, like just these sort of, I don't know if they were like initiations, but I used to get a lot of different things happening and see a lot of different things. So I guess that house really helped in terms of waking up perhaps to, I always knew there's something else going on bigger than us, and an energy, if you like, but just the experiences really started to get me really thinking that there's so much more than we know, so much more out there. And I've always been open,
Yeah, definitely. And what specifically stood out in that house then that you can think of?
Oh my goodness. Well, a lot of things. And it was a gift. So often when people live in homes that are quite challenging energetically, it doesn't feel like a gift. It was quite stressful. There was a lot going on. I mean, we got some builders in and we had one falling through the ceiling. We had so many different things happening. I mean, when you get builders in, you often get it, don't you, that it's more expensive than you anticipate. And things going wrong. But this was like 3 times more expensive. And just my daughter, who was 3 at the time, started to have terrible night terrors. And that was really, really difficult time. And she would wake up, see things. And so I kind of had just started maybe a year before doing all my sort of, I'd moved away. Well, I was still doing Feng Shui training, but I was doing more geopathic stress work, which I can explain what that is in a minute, but I was doing more sort of energy work and just going through that with her and seeing what happened to her over a period of time was what developed my passion for what I do now. So often I do go to homes where children aren't sleeping, for example, and just being able to help solve that issue of perhaps people not sleeping, or in Katie's place, in Katie's turn, it was her nursery had said to me, perhaps it's not the right place for her, because she went from this really bouncy, fun-loving child to a very tired, very sort of withdrawn, little person. And so from that, I mean, honestly, one evening when I was drying her hair in a different room, the whole ceiling fell down on her bed. And had she been there, I don't know what would have happened. So all these things were going on. And I guess that was like my training as well. I think I couldn't have done even all the training I've done, that house. I think I was just meant, it chose me, if you like. I was meant to go there. All the things that I do now.
And was it like because the house was haunted, or is that what you read haunted? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was a lot of things. There was a lot of problems with the earth energy. So, gosh, that's another story. There was a lot of energy problems with it generally. I mean, she used to say to me that she'd seen little Victorian children walking around, and we would hear things. The little orbs that you see. A lot of people will see them on pictures, orbs floating around, but I used to see them floating just in the rooms.
Wow.
So there was a lot going on, and it's not that it didn't frighten me or anything. It was just quite difficult because we resonate at a certain energy. So if you've got other earth energies or anything else, it's hard for us, to live with that. So I think that's what I really understand when I go to clients' homes now, and there's quite a lot for me to do. I really understand where they're at and what they've gone through. So it was definitely a gift, but it didn't always feel like that. But one of the things we did do is I moved Katie out of that bedroom, and I am telling you, honestly, I'll never forget it. She was elated, and she never had a night terror again. And
Wow.
we did all the conventional stuff. I literally did. So I'm not saying to people that, move your bed. We did all the things. She went for hospital appointments, because obviously I was worried. I thought you've got to cover everything. And she completely changed.
Yeah. And so did you get to the bottom of what was happening in that particular room?
Yeah. If anyone, so I'm not saying anyone could see, if you walked into that room, it was a bit misty, a bit hazy. And the weird thing is, when I look back at the history of who lived in that house, there were actually apparently 3 mediums that lived there at one point. and they were doing all sorts of stuff there, like stuff I don't agree with, Ouija boards and things like that.
Right.
I think what happened is it just opened up things. So it opened up things, and then and so that's what made it, and so I then obviously, we did actually move some years later, but I was constantly making sure it was all clear. And I have to report that when we did move, it was probably 98%. It was as good as I could get it.
This is why we've got to be really careful. It's funny we're doing this in Halloween, actually, we're talking about this stuff, but it's we've got to be mindful about when we're connecting to the other side, and really being clear with our intentions, and doing Ouija boards. They can open up to really some darker energies, can't they? And so it's interesting. So do you believe this was initiation to help you with your training then, so you can really help other people?
Definitely, I do. I mean, gosh, we're going back now quite a few years ago. Obviously, I think I'm trying to think, but a long time ago. And it definitely helped me in terms of that. I mean, I had people from lots of different consultants like myself, practitioners, mediums coming to look at this house. And it's an interesting thing because many mediums don't believe in so I'll just explain if I can. So for example, sometimes you might think there's something in your house, like let's call it a spirit, and it's actually could be an imprint of something that's happened in the past. So I always remember a long time ago, someone phoned me up and said, "Oh, I've got something in my house, it's haunted." And as she was talking on the phone, I saw this butler going past holding a tray with, like, it looked like sort of 2 glasses of sherry or something. And then I saw this clock chiming for 6 o'clock. And what it was an imprint in the space. Because I said, "Have you seen a butler?" And she said, "That's it. Yes, yes." And it was like a repeat pattern in the space.
Wow.
Like, for example, in Hampton Court, there's a corridor. One of I can't remember, one of Henry VIII's wives. There's a story that she runs down this corridor screaming because she's about to have her head chopped off or whatever. And the thing is, she's not there. People still think it's haunted. But what it is all the people that go there, all their energy and expectations create this atmosphere. So all our thoughts and everything, but actually it's not there. So we have to be very mindful that sometimes it can be our own thoughts that are floating around the house, charging. And usually, if you think about it, when you pass over, usually I'd say 99%, we're just going to pass over and, go to the spirit world. So it's only very, very small percentage that don't. And I think that's important to remember that. And tell you, if you're interested, that what I have found over the years is that when you get people that take, for example, a lot of drugs, or it can open up, well, I'm going to say open up stuff. So I think those are the circumstances. Like, for example, I knew from a very small age, I heard about Ouija boards, never do one. I would never do one. And, even if I just wouldn't, even if you had, I'm sure if you had a table of mediums that knew what they were doing, fair enough. But for me, it's just not something I want to do. Because it's like tapping into energy that is of a lower vibration. If you think about it, when we pass over, we've gone home. So when we're home, we're not, why would we want to come back here? This is the school. And then you just move to a different address in the spirit world. And so it's not that. So the difference is, if you have a loved one come in, like say your granny comes to see you, she's not stuck in a house somewhere. She just come to have a little checkup, see how you're doing, and off she goes. So there is a difference. So for me, I keep my mediumship quite separate. My other work. And it's not that when I was doing Feng Shui, I didn't think that I would end up doing all the things I do now. You know, I thought just, I love doing, you know, pink fluffy work, really, you know, like really nice moving things and putting crystals here, there and everywhere. But obviously my soul was guided to go along a path, and that's what I've always followed.
Yeah, it's following that intuition, isn't it? And there's always, even when we think we're in control and we're like plan things out, and we're like something takes a different turn, it's like, oh, okay. But as long as we're following what we love to do, then it's just going to all like, so the puzzle pieces start coming together. You're like, oh yeah, that connects in with that, and that connects in with that, and so yeah, I love that. And I'd love to go back to, and I have got another question about life after death and all of these kind of things, and what your belief is on that, because I've been watching a lot of NDEs recently, and you said about, you know, why would we want to come back when we go home? A lot of them are talking about they didn't want to come back, and then they had to come back, and they had more to do here, and how much love they felt. But before we get onto that, I really want to go back to, you said about the geopathic stress.
Yeah,
What is that?
so geopathic stress is to put it in a nutshell, because it's a huge subject, it's detrimental energy. So we need to resonate at a certain frequency. When there's geopathic stress, which is when, if you imagine you could go 300 feet down into the earth, and there's these little streams. So sometimes they can be hit a fault line, or just not flow properly. And in Feng Shui, we would call that black streams. So if you're sleeping on that, then depending on your own constitution, so depending on perhaps where you were brought up, how sensitive you were, then you can be affected by it. And it's also, you could have, there's a strength to it as well that we measure. And so we don't want to work on it or sit on it. So if, for example, you weren't sleeping well, let's say you moved house and you go to your new house, you just can't sleep, you know. So you could, for example, try moving to a different bed, trying it out, experimenting. But it's not, you know, long term, it can affect our health. And, you know, over the years, that is one of my real passions, with helping people with that. So, I mean, it can range from quarries, from railway tracks being put in, building an extension. Often people will say, oh, since I built the extension. It can be from, oh gosh, it's a huge subject. I mean, I could tell you so many stories about houses that I've been to. Like one in particular I'm thinking of, they decided to build a bar and a swimming pool outside of their home, and changing rooms and everything. And I saw the pictures, and it honestly was like that. I couldn't believe what had happened to the earth, you know. And we just need to be really mindful of what we're doing, you know. I'm not saying that every time we build that would happen, but I feel it. I honestly could feel it. And it created a lot of problems. And even I remember renting some years ago, and the next door neighbour decided to completely gut out their home. And I was doing all this then. I was just renting for 6 months. Honestly, I felt the trauma.
The trauma of the land.
Yeah, huge. Yeah. Yeah, so
how does that happen? Like, because recently it's that time of year where a lot of tree surgeons are around, and I'm seeing them cutting these trees down. What impact does that have on the tree? Obviously the tree, because, you know, it's conscious as well. What's that impact of that as well around that land?
Are they cutting them down completely or trimming them?
Some have been cut down, yeah.
Yeah. So for me, and a lot of people will, I'm sure, think the same thing, that you have trees are, like you say, I mean, you look at the connection of nature and trees and mushrooms, they all talk to each other, don't they? And you know, trees have spirits. So, you know, it's about that thing. Like, for example, if you're going to do some building work or cut a tree down, you know, it's like doing some sort of ritual, or letting them know what's going to happen, or prayer. So it is important. So it's like that acknowledging nature. It's like it's a part of us, and you know, it's just being so sort of in tune with what we're doing, you know.
Yeah,
Ancient
absolutely.
times, we wouldn't have done that. You know, we wouldn't have all these houses everywhere. We'd have space. And now, of course, we've got so much going on with, you know, electric stuff and Wi-Fi and this, that, and the other. So yeah, it is quite a thing. But I think, you know, yeah, we just have to do what we can.
Yeah, exactly. And there is a lot of like, you know, like you said, we had a lot of space before. There's so many places like where there is space, like the building up straight away. It's like, oh, a bit of space. Let's put more buildings there.
Yeah.
How can we prevent the geopathic stress?
Okay. Is that before it comes?
Yeah, if you know, I'm gonna like build an extension or I want to build a, you know, if you can afford to build a swimming pool, great, whatever. Like how, but you're aware, you've got this awareness now. Those that are watching, like, oh, I am going to do some building work. So how can I stop this from happening potentially?
Okay. If you're see what it is that I'm not saying that every time you do building work there'll be geopathic stress. That isn't true.
Mm-hmm.
See, if you've built, it could be so naturally in the earth, there's vortexes, there's openings, and there's streams flowing and all sorts of things. So if you know, it's not, you can't really prevent it if it's, you know, you can't really prevent it. It's just being mindful of what you're going to do, and perhaps even doing a ritual. I mean, you know, people will put rice around the boundaries or say a prayer to the earth, but it's an interesting question. How can you prevent it? Well, I think if it's in the wrong place, you know, I'm not.
Don't do it in that place, then do it somewhere else, really. Yeah.
Yeah, but so if let's say you've built the extension and things start to go wrong or you start to not sleep well, then I think, yeah, that would be your way of perhaps investigating it further, for sure.
Or calling in someone like yourself to investigate.
I was going to say that, but
Yeah, well, yeah.
yeah.
And so you obviously go to many houses, you obviously do distant healings now for the homes. And so what does it look like when you, what are the main things that you identify when you go into a home? What is the main thing that causes the imbalances that the most common, apart
Okay.
from the geopathic stress, or is that the most common?
So the geopathic stress these days tends to be in most houses. So,
Okay.
so as long as we're not sleeping on it, which is why I'm saying, you know, you could just try moving the bed, you know, like for example, I could look at someone's living room and I would know exactly, I'd say there were two sofas, I'd say, you definitely don't sit in that sofa, do you? Because there's geopathic stress running through it. So naturally, we try to steer clear of it. So for example, if you're in bed and you sleep to a certain side, let's say you've got a double bed to yourself and you're sleeping on the edge to one side, because we're trying to actually remove ourselves from it. So if you have a baby in a cot and it's sleeping at a weird angle or something, you know, these are the sort of little things to note. So there are ways of seeing if signs of geopathic stress. So for me, I like to have a floor plan of the home, or at least a photograph of the outside. And as soon as I get a floor plan, I mean, in the old days, you used to get posted them. I would open it out and whoa, you know, I'd know straight away, oh gosh, you know. So I do dowsing with like a pendulum or, you know, like rods.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean by that?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, so I would be dowsing just to see what I'm going to, as it were. So I kind of get an idea. So I will douse the vitality of the home. I go through like a long checklist. And then when I arrive, I'll double check what I've doused at home. And my clients all sort of, I'll have a talk with them and they'll take me on a tour, and I'll be able to sense, you know, some rooms feel different to others. So I get a sense of what's going on, and then I'm asking questions. So that's really how it goes once I arrive at a home. Yeah.
And what are the main things that you notice is the main like area that stops the flow of that river of energy going through a home?
Be the one that we all know about is clutter. So you could have a spotless home, go into one room and it's just full of clutter. So I have to think, oh, that's interesting. And I can guarantee there'll be a lot of geopathic stress in there. It's geopathic stress, you know, where there's clutter, you know, so say you've got workmen in and they leave all their rubbish, I can tell you it'll be on the geopathic stress. Or there'll be a room full of, you know, so that's really how you can see by just, you know, looking around, you know, having a sense of it. So clutter, I mean, obviously from a Feng Shui point of view, there'd be other things. So like pictures, for example, on the wall. Very interesting what people choose to put around them. You know, so say the old classic is you could have someone looking for a relationship and you can look round because our home is a reflection of us, what's going on in our life, and you can see single objects everywhere. Or pictures, just pictures. Let's say it's a woman, pictures of women on their own everywhere, you know. Or if you've got a couple that aren't getting on very well, you can see that as well in the space. Especially, again, if they've got lots of single pictures. And then you could have pictures that, you know, quite, I mean, the other day I had someone wanting to sell their home that hadn't been selling. They had this really strange, very strange, I don't even know, it's like a red sort of small man, bright red. It was like really weird. So I said, tell me about that picture. And she said, oh yeah, she's married. My ex-boyfriend gave me that, for example. And I'm like, oh, that's quite old energy. She said, oh, I don't really like it. I'll throw it out. You know, so we have, it's not a judgment, but we have things around us that we don't actually always notice or we don't think about. So the symbology of artwork is also really important, of seeing what objects we've got. So if you've got something that Auntie Gwen gave you and you hate it, every time you look at it, your energy is going to drop. You know, something that's broken or something that when you look at it reminds you of the past. You know,
do you think it's important to have like crystal grids set up in your home to help with like energy or protection of your home?
yeah, you can do that. A lot of it, I think, is intention.
You
know, it's intention. So of course, yeah, people, you know, can have little tables of their ancestors, of, you know, crystals, a home crystal grids. Yeah, all of that helps. But I think if you've not got the earth energies right, then you kind of, that is the most important thing. So Feng Shui is the icing on the cake, is what I always say. So you need to get the other stuff, you know, and maybe look at who lived there before and how it all went. You know, it's always like if you think of a shop in your town, a shop that just never, you go in, you might go to the door and you think, oh no, I don't want to go in here. And you know, it could be that actually just that shop's full of stuff and it's like, whoa. But sometimes it can be telling us something, you know, or the business that never quite does well. You know,
yeah, and
really
if obviously you've no geopathic stress and you just know that there's energies off in certain rooms, what are the things can you do to help clear that energy?
okay, so there's a lot you can do. You can do things like, and again, as long as you're feeling energetic, you don't want to do this if you're feeling tired or you're not very well, for example. And you can ask Archangel Michael for protection. So it might be something you don't necessarily always, you know, are aware of, but so that's a good thing to start with. And then you can do things like clapping out the corners, because energy tends to get stagnant in the corners. You could ring a bell, or just literally just, you know, you could put loud music, rock music on. I mean, that changes the energy, or anything to just change things up. You know, it's all about intention though. So if, for example, you moved to a new home and you knew, let's say someone had passed away in the house or had been unwell, let's say you're going into the bedroom, just clapping it out with the intention of moving out any old energy, or ringing a bell, or getting a saucepan and a wooden spoon, anything, opening the windows, getting some incense, some sprays. You know, there's so many little different things you can do to change it.
And do you think that, you know, having a home where there's obviously the feng shui isn't set up in the right way, and there's obviously maybe geopathic stress, or, you know, there's just a lot of energy because of clutter or whatever, it can actually block your abundance?
Yes, I do think that. Perhaps our thoughts might block that more. I think the way we think about it, and obviously if we get into fear, for example, let's talk about, you know, finances and stuff like that. But definitely, if you've got geopathic stress running through your front door, that can definitely have an effect. And just like if you were looking up who lived there before, and you might find out that they had the home repossessed, or these are the sort of things that are to be mindful of. But I think, you know, with our intention, we can, you know, not calling anyone in like me, for example, you can change that. Can change that. So one of the classic feng shui things you'll hear about is that and we have a lot of them in this country, is when you've got the stairs that come directly out and are in line with the front door. So if you imagine your stream it's not going to be a stream anymore, it's like a big waterfall. So what we would say is that your chi, your good luck's going straight out the door. Same in the feng shui I'm trained with, is that if you've got a mirror and you know the mirror, it facing the door as you come in, again the chi bounces off and goes back out.
Wow.
So what you can do, say if you've got the stairs, is you want to slow the energy down. So you could put pictures going up. There could be a table with plants there. You could, depending, again, it's important that you like it. Like people do put wind chimes, or you could have a chandelier thing, anything that slows it down. Or like a runner, which you don't want a runner with lines going straight down, because that's going to speed it up. So anything like red, the color red, stop, you know, we'll say stop. Anything that slows it down, because our entrance is the most important thing in feng shui, in my opinion.
And does colour matter in your home with the flow?
Again, I think it depends where. If you had a bedroom and you decided to paint it bright red, then you're unlikely, you might have a lot of passion, but you're unlikely to sleep.
Okay.
You might want more calming colours, but however, red's quite good in a dining room. So again, there is a lot of colour related with feng shui, which is another podcast.
Yeah, I'm sure.
There's different areas of your homes that relate to different colours. But I quite like when you've got kind of quite plain walls, if you like, and you add colour. In my living room, I've got a yellow sofa, bright yellow. I've got a pink armchair, but the walls are quite neutral. But I add colour, and the thing is, at the end of the day, it's what makes you happy.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, if you were to look at feng shui and think, oh well, I don't, you know, it's what does it for you, you know, what colours. That is more important than any book you pick up, or listening to anyone that talks about feng shui. So earth energies are fine, and you're, you know, coming from that thought form, because our home is us, so we want to put things around that make us feel happy. And
yeah, we can feel that, can't we? We can feel that, and you know, we can go, oh yeah, this makes me, I like that, feels good, or oh, I don't feel so good with that. It's listening to that what our body's saying and our intuition, right?
Because a lot of it is intuitive.
Mm-hmm.
I've always felt that. A lot of us naturally will, and moving things around as well, having things we love, and none of it, you know, is what uplifts us. So if we look around and think, oh, or I think I'll change that now, that's good. Or, you know, it's what makes us feel inspired. So like have it when you come in the door, have something that when you come in really lifts your soul, you know, lifts you and think, oh, I'm so pleased to be home.
Yeah, brilliant. And I just want to go back because obviously you're a medium, and if we were talking about, you know, what your views are with life after death.
Oh, yeah.
And so obviously I'm really getting obsessed with watching near-death experiences, and highly recommend people go to, I think it's one channel called Come Home, and so many people's journeys and stories, and it's fascinating, and it's really helping me just, even though I know it, but it's like another knowing. What's your view on it with what happens when we go to the other side?
Okay. So for me, well, actually, I think it's quite a lot of people think this. So I think, so one of the other things I'll just quickly say, because I trained as well in past lives and what we call something called life between lives. And so you take a client back to their previous past life and use that as a vehicle to go and have a tour of what's going on the other side. So I had that. I've had a couple of those when I was doing my training. And, you know, just even clients that haven't read books, you know, you leave the body. So as we know, the body's left behind. That's just the vehicle that we come in. So our soul's going, we move over the other side. We're taking our mind and our personality. And then often you see a loved one or a guide will meet you, let's say. So that guide could be, I'm not talking, you know, I'm talking, it's normally someone that the energy, because it's telepathic, that we recognize or feel. So let's say, and then you will feel the energy change. So it's like we're getting healing. So let's say we've had illness just before we pass, and all of that gets healed. So we're kind of back to our old self, you know, so we don't have pain. We just feel this utter joy. And then we go at some point, because there's no such thing as time, to have a life review. So we're looking at, I see it like a cine film, you know, perhaps things that turns we took, perhaps things we could have done differently. But there's no judgment in that, you know, but it's like us, what's our soul learned? And one of the things that I'll never forget when I did one of my life between lives was I went to meet my soul group. So it's all, and we were colours. So it's all, there weren't bodies. And when I got there, it's like they were all laughing at me. So there's still a lot of humour. You know, there's a lot of humour. And it was like, oh, look at you, you know, you took on too much, you know. And it was like we had a theme, and our theme was all about healing. And it was almost as if that life had helped the soul group. It's really interesting. Yeah, so did that answer your question?
Yeah, I love that. It's like, you know, you're not just doing it for you, you're doing it for like it goes bigger than you being here in incarnated on earth right now. It's like they're, I don't know, I'm just feeling like they're looking in going, yes, come on, you're doing it. Yes, for that sin, like they're cheering you on the sidelines, kind of. And because they're learning from you just by you being here and doing the work and being in the body, and
Same
it's,
with guides as well, you know.
yeah, exactly.
We all have someone, whether you call it an angel, a guide, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you don't know who they are. We do. We're never alone. And I think it's so easy, isn't it, in this life to feel totally alone?
Yeah.
But we're not.
No.
From an energetic point of view, we're not. And I think
Mm.
that's when you go back home to the spirit world, that's when you go, oh my goodness, I've got it, you know. wow.
Yeah, I love that. And it's interesting that you said that when we do cross over, we still have our personality. Like we're
Yeah.
still us, like that witty, humorous, like that we're still us. Like
Mm.
we can think like we might lose that, but yeah, that's it, we're just us, but not in a body, right?
Yeah, because when you say, for example, you've got a medium and they bring, you know, that personality through. Let's say I was bringing someone through for you. I'm not going to bring them through as someone that's evolved spiritually. I've got to bring them through as someone that you recognize.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if I say you had someone, not you necessarily, by the way, but say somebody had someone that was actually very challenging and they didn't really, you know, they had issues within their relationship. If I brought them through and said, oh, you had such an amazing love bond, you know, you were like that together, you know,
Mm,
that person would go, no, no, that wasn't him.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
They do come through with those memories and those experiences of who we were actually. But I mean, I have noticed, like my father, as I said earlier, died many years ago, and I don't need evidence because I know.
Mm,
And I've noticed now that he'll come through very rarely, but much more. He's worked on all of his, you know, he's literally feels like he's gone into that spiritual place.
mm,
And that really here he's actually trying to help me, like, you know, trying to, you know, not trying, but he's helping me more now.
A lot of our loved ones that passed are tend to be our guides, don't they, on the other side? And so, you know, say so. Obviously, they say the veil is thinner at Halloween. It's Halloween today, and so how easy is it to get impressions or connect in with the other side? How does it work? What's the process as a medium? I'm a channel, and for me, when I channel my guides or my higher self, I have to like fully get in the. It's like I'm in the back seat of the car, and then I allow an energy to come forward and take the wheel. And it's different with mediumship, right?
Yeah, so yeah, so what you it is similar in a way that you need to get yourself out of the way
Yeah.
for sure. So for example, I've got a couple of services coming up this weekend, so I do prep for it, in like I will meditate. I'll ask to be at the sort of let the certain vibration that's perfect for my mediumship. If
Mm,
so, I find that's a good way because then I'm not saying where that should be. And so it's about moving out and allowing. So if you've got a loved one, or anyone, it's allowing them to come into that space.
mm,
Um, so it's not like, for example, so it's not anything like a possession or something weird like that, because they're coming in, the energy feels, you know, they've come to communicate, just say,
mm,
actually, I am still here with you. Because it's
mm,
not really up there, it's everywhere, you know, it's not,
mm.
that's just sometimes our perception. So it's about allowing them to give that evidence and then a meaningful message, for example, for that person. So you want their needs met.
Mm.
That makes sense. So you are still getting out of the way though.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. We see the ego can't be because
Oh,
otherwise your,
so if,
ideas.
so if someone decides to ask you a question, for
Yeah.
example, let's say you're doing a service, a divine service in a spiritualist church, and you're just letting spirit giving you. I'm not asking questions. I'm
Mm,
not. This is how I would do my mediumship. And you're allowing spirit to give this information. Let's say we connect with someone, and you are letting that flow, um, so that person gets what they need.
mm,
So if that person then asks a question, oh, can you ask him, or can you tell me his name? What happens is our own mind will flip in, will literally come in. So we always say, just say, don't say too much. It's up to us to show that it is your loved one. So if you carry on, keep completing all the sentences,
Yeah, no, I get that.
you're not getting the what we would call evidence, you know.
And do you find with it being this time of year that it's easier to connect or get those impressions, or for spirit to come through a little bit easier, or is that all just hearsay and just a yeah, for fun because it's Halloween, you know, and they say the veil is thin.
It is, but because I guess because I'm doing work all the time, I'm not sure. I'm honestly not sure. I can let you know because as I say, I've got a couple of services coming up, but I'm just not sure. They say it is, but, you know, think about again all the thought forms. I mean, traditionally. So if we go kind of, you know, Samhain, if we look at all that, it is apparently the veil is thinner. So I'm not saying it isn't. So I think it is. And I think also if your intention is, I'm going to look in a black mirror and see something behind me, you probably will, you know. I think just one of your other questions, that everyone can be a medium. Every single person is, you know, can do it. And I think it's just that sometimes that's not our pathway. Or I guess maybe it's like playing a piano. Sometimes you might be Mozart, rarely. And then perhaps, you know, but everyone has that intuition anyway. They can we all tap into our intuition. Feel the gut, you know, our gut reactions to things. So I think it is thinner at this time, but so still it's always good to be mindful, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I always say that everybody can channel. Like it's just practice, isn't it? It's just practice.
It is practice and just wanting to do it, I guess.
Yeah, brilliant. And if this has been amazing, I've loved this conversation, and it's interesting. Like now with your work, do you know you said you keep the mediumship kind of separate? Do you, when you are working in people's homes, does that mediumship just kind of come through, like even when you're not expecting it, and it just kind of forms part of like that session?
Yeah, so it definitely, so I started training in mediumship, training. So I did lots of it, you know, some exams in it and all sorts, but I started that 2008, 2009. So I think it definitely has helped me with what I do. So like with all the things I do, it's like they all complement each other. But the reason I trained in the other therapies that I do is merely because it wasn't just about homes and the healing. So it all complements each other. Reason for now excited about doing funeral celebrancy is because I do talk to a lot of people that have lost loved ones, been to funerals where I just think, gosh, you know, that person, that loved one didn't really get the service, perhaps that was a reflection of them. You can see other ones that are amazing, that are fantastic, you know, but I saw a couple recently, a friend, and I thought, you know, that the celebrant got her name wrong. And I was like, and it's just kind of things like that. You want that, you know, and working with families, talking to families that have lost ones. So that I'm quite comfortable with. I think it's quite, I feel quite excited, you know, about that, because I think it all just kind of, you know, flows together.
Yeah, and when you're talking to them, you may get messages and saying, by the way, they're here with me, and you know, they're saying, I'm happy, I'm back home, you know.
No, but I won't be able to share that, will I, unless they are specific.
Wow.
No.
You can say it's part of it, maybe, but who knows what? Because obviously spirit's guided all of this, and it's weaving it. But you've got to know your audience, I suppose.
I'm quite boundary for things like that, because I have known people, that friends and things, they might be in a supermarket queue and go, oh, I've got your nan here. That is not how it should be done.
Yeah.
I'm not working. I would have, no doubt, would have a sense, but you know, unless that person specifically is, you know, you got to be careful with
of course,
what you say and do. You know, people, especially when they're grieving, they're not necessarily ready to hear that. if you think they've just passed away a week before, you know, it takes time for people, and you know, that journey of processing everything is done by persons.
Yeah, it's got to be done in the right way, hasn't it? And yeah, it makes sense.
Definitely.
Brilliant. This has been amazing. Thank you so much for sharing this. I've loved it. And if people wanted to work with you, or even, you know, as a medium, and I know you do aura healing as well, and do you want to briefly touch on what that is?
Yeah, so aura healing. So I've been doing that for the same amount of time. So I either do it I've got a studio in my home at the back. So I do aura healing there, or at a distance from a photograph. So I am working with, as well, I do some trance healing with that as well. And I'm doing sort of basic chakras and stuff like that. And also just looking at within our aura, it contains all our thoughts and so on. So I'm literally dissipating, transmuting. Sometimes we can have cords connected to people that we might have had a relationship with, or you know, anything unhealthy. Yeah, I love doing that. That's also, you know, so it complements what I do. So it's one of the a lot of what I do. You know, because people, especially now, I seem really busy with that. I could just, you know, finding things tough. I run workshops as well, so you can find out on my website all of the stuff that I'm doing.
Yeah, I'll link that below as well. And you've got a couple of services, you said. Are they in Brighton?
Yes, I've got one this Sunday in Brighton, Brotherhood Gate, and then I've got one on Monday with my sister, actually. So sometimes we work together. That's at Edward Street, Brighton.
Amazing. Is she medium as well then? Wow, that's great. I love that. Monday, I know the spiritual church you run about on Edward Street. Yeah, I know that one.
It's fun working with each other, you can imagine, because if it's your sister, you can have a bit of banter.
Yeah, exactly. I
Yeah.
might try and make that one actually, because I know, yeah, I might try and come. I'll have my daughter though. Is she all right to come? She's only 8. But yeah.
And yeah, as long as she doesn't get too bored. It's only
No,
an
that's the only thing. Yeah, I'll have to see. I'll have to see.
hour.
Oh, actually, will I have anyway. But yeah, this has been great. It's been so insightful. And I think just to take away, to summarize, you know, if people are noticing, you know, especially in their homes, like, you know, disturbed sleep, things like that, just check for geopathic stress. And you can do that with, you know, if they can get like a pendulum or things like that. Even muscle testing, you could probably do to check.
To do.
Yeah.
Even just that simple thing of moving a bed, or just go sleep somewhere else and see if you sleep better.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Tester.
Yeah, yeah. And clapping your home and just yeah.
You know, fresh flowers, music.
Opening the windows, things like that.
Smudging with sage if you wanted to. Lots of different things.
Yeah.
Open windows, yeah. Lighting's good, candles, up to Christmas, all these lovely things.
Yeah. And declutter, because yes, that's gonna block that feng shui.
And decluttering, you know, decluttering is a lifetime. You know, I think people think they can do it once, but you know, it's a lifetime's job.
It's layered, isn't it? I know that's what I'm going to be doing over the next couple of days. Is I really called to just declutter. So yeah.
Yeah, and if anyone's feeling a little bit down, honestly, just start to clear out a drawer. Makes a big difference, really does.
Yeah, brilliant, great.
Yeah, or just doing something like, you know, off your list of, I must clear this up. So
and if you were to leave anybody with anything today, whether that's from your mediumship hat on, or you know, more about coming from a practitioner or somebody who, like, you know, clears some homes, what would you leave today, this conversation with today, that people can take away?
Thing. Wow. Do you know what? It has to be that, to get out into nature, to really, you know, to sit within our own self, to connect with ourselves. You know, I honestly feel that would be just so important. And know as well about the houses that our homes are a reflection of us. So that would be really important as well. So just taking a look around and seeing what's in your space.
Yeah.
And you know, like I think I said to you when we were doing the workshop, you know, you could give your home a name. Hi, you know, just like treating your home like a best friend, like, you know, hopefully we do that to ourselves.
Yeah, love that. Give your home a name. Say
Yeah.
hello when you come home or when you're leaving. Say
Yeah.
goodbye, I'll be back soon, like things like that.
You've got, say, someone the other day said to me, you know, their neighbour leaves loads of boxes out and they've been there for 5 days. And I said, well, give the boxes a humorous name, so that when you go past them, you're not just thinking, oh, those neighbours, they've still got these boxes out. Or if you've got a wall straight in front of your, you know, give it a name. You know, if something there is you can't change, like a wall that you feel is blocking you, just name it, give it something humorous, you know, to change up your thoughts.
Yeah, brilliant. Love that. Well, this is amazing. I put all your links below so people can find you and yeah, book a session if they feel called. And yeah, this has been a great conversation. So thank you everybody for being here and watching. Please do like, comment and subscribe and share this with anybody you think may find this interesting or get some use out of it, so they can start to make some changes in their life and their home. And yeah, thank you so much for being here. Have a blessed day, everybody.